bhavateshu hi shatam nastaprayesha madreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhakti bhavati naishtikim. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Part 2, Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. Text 15. Yanmaya yurguna karma nivandasmi. Yanmaya yurguna karma nivandandasmin. Samsarike paticharam stad abhishraменam. Nashta smiti punar ayam pravrinita lokam. Yuktyakayam mahadanudam antarenam. Synonyms. Yet, of the Lord. Maya, by the Maya. Uruguna, arising from the great modes. Karma, activities. Nivandhane, with bonds. Asmin, this. Samsarike, of repeated birth and death. Pati, on the path. Charan, wandering. Tat, of him. Avisramena, with great pains. Nashta, lost. Smriti, memory. Punah, again. Ayam, this living entity. Pravrinita, may realize. Lokam, his true nature. Yuktyakaya, by what means? Mahat, anugraham, the mercy of the Lord. Antarena, without. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The human soul further prays. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditional life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord? Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers say that simply by cultivation of knowledge, by mental speculation, one can be liberated from the condition of material bondage. But here it is said one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The knowledge the conditioned soul gains by mental speculation, however powerful it may be, is always too imperfect to approach the absolute truth. It is said that without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand him or his actual form, quality, and name. Those who are not in devotional service go on speculating for many, many thousands of years, but they are still unable to understand the nature of the absolute truth. One can be liberated in the knowledge of the absolute truth simply by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly said herein that our memory is lost because we are now covered by his material energy. Arguments may be put forward as to why we have been put under the influence of this material energy by the supreme will of the Lord. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, I am sitting in everyone's heart, and due to me, one is forgetful or one is alive in knowledge. The forgetfulness of the conditioned soul is also due to the direction of the Supreme Lord. A living entity misuses his little independence when he wants to lord it over material nature. This misuse of independence, which is called Maya, is always available. Otherwise, there would be no independence. Independence implies that one can use it properly or improperly. It is not static, it is dynamic. Therefore, misuse of independence is the cause of being influenced by Maya. Maya is so strong that the Lord says that it is very difficult to surmount her influence. but one can do so very easily if he surrenders unto me. Ma me vaye prapadiante. Anyone who surrenders unto him can overcome the influence of the strengthening laws of material nature. It is clearly said here that a living entity is put under the influence of Maya by his will. And if anyone wants to get out of this entanglement, this can be made possible simply by his mercy. The activities of the conditioned souls under the influence of material nature are explained here. Every conditioned soul is engaged in different types of work under the influence of material nature. We can see in the material world that the conditioned souls act so powerfully that he is playing wonderfully in creating the so-called advancements of material civilization for sense gratification. But actually, his position is to know that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. When he is actually in perfect knowledge, he knows that the Lord is the supreme worshipful object and that the living entity is his eternal servant. Without this knowledge, he engages in material activities. That is called ignorance. Imagínate mirando hacia grande la solakaya. Chakchuramritam jena tasmai Sri Guruve namaha. Nahata praya senna prabhupada satustaya sankirtam prabhupada tehite Guruve namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavade Paschatya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Good morning. I thank you for the opportunity to serve Srimad Bhagavatam, my spiritual master in this assembly. And although I'm qualified to speak on matters of Bhagavatam, I request your blessings so that will allow me to serve you and at the same time heal my heart, remove the many anarthas contained within. So we have been taking classes on embryology for the past days. And probably before reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we did not realize how painful it is to come to this world. We tend to say that the baby is protected by the mother's womb, and to a certain point, it is correct. It is protected from external factors, unless the mother herself is unable to protect or care for herself. But as we have read, the body is still under severe trauma, and the soul within that body is praying, is connecting with the Lord, who, by the way, is always with us. Therefore, we need to understand that we are never alone. We might feel lonely, but we are never alone. Whatever there is heartbeat, there is the Lord sitting in that very heart, in his Paramatma feature. When the heart beats, it means the life force is present. That energy that many talk but no one can measure is there. And if we think about it, what is the first sign of a new life? The heartbeat. That's the first manifestation. Nothing else is there. So once the heart is there, everything else begins to form. Similarly, when the heart stops, it means that the life force, the energy, the Paramatma and Atma have left the body, confirming once again that the Lord is with us always. But again, He does not interfere with our free will that He has given us. We want to enjoy, try to be masters, that's okay. Then we will continue to be trapped in this wonderful world of Maya. The prison might be made of gold, but there is nevertheless still a prison, right? There's an expression. So, and we think that all of this material realm is real and lasting, everlasting, when it is just temporary. but we try to convince ourselves and cheat ourselves. But we cannot cheat the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 15:15 says, Sarvasya chaman hridi sanivisto, matasmriti janam apohanam cha, vedascha sarva aham meva vedyo, vedanta krit vida videvacham. I am sitting in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. And Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, let me quote, that the Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is applied to him, and remembrance is given to him. And he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. So again, the soul is praying, please get me out of here, alleviate this suffering. But then the miracle of life happens and the baby is born. And the moment the child leaves the body and comes in contact to the material world, he is immediately attacked by another entity, Maya. And the prayers are all gone. Then the soul becomes conditioned to the three modes of material nature, and once again, it will be affected by the three kinds of miseries caused by our material condition, Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, and Adhidaivaka. Adhyatmika miseries that are caused by the body and mind. Adhibhautika, suffering caused by the other living entities, and Adhidaivika, which are caused by nature or demigods. We have no control over those. So long we're in the material world, these miseries are going to be there. In his purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the forgetfulness of the conditioned soul is also due to the direction of the Supreme Lord. A living entity misuses his lived independence when he wants to dote it off with material nature. This misuse of independence, which is called Maya, is always available. Otherwise, there will be no independence. Independence implies that one can use it properly or improperly. This is very important. Independence implies that one can use it properly or improperly. It is not static, it is dynamic. Therefore, misuse of independence is the cause of being influenced by Maya. So we either use, abuse, or misuse our independence. We get the freedom to choose because the Lord has given us free will. But we think that we are independent, and instead of making good use of this independence, we become libertines, not free. We just think that we have more freedom, when in fact we are putting more chains to ourselves. And then later, Srila Prabhupada says that the living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. So although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord, situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedants from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him, and at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we come to Sambandha, Videya, and Prayojana. And in today's verse, there's a powerful statement. Without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in the transcendental love and service of the Lord? So the first thing that comes to my mind is Damodar Lila and Damodar Astakam. Why? Because in this pastime, we see very vividly the mercy of the Lord. The robe was 2 fingers, 2 inches too short, representing the perseverance of the devotee and the Lord's causeless mercy, his love. Mother Yasoda is constantly remembering Krishna, so there is no room to forget him. And the Lord is Bhakti Jitadva, conquered by his pure devotees. How? By pure love. So it is important that we do not take for granted the most important instruction given by Srila Prabhupada. Always remember Krishna. Never forget Krishna. We quote this very often, but are we applying or working towards it? Do we need to be chanting 24/7 to accomplish or live at the temple or go to the forest? No. Srila Prabhupada gave us extremely great examples on time, place, and circumstances. But at all times, at all places, and under all circumstances, we remember Krishna. In that way, we act or react in the way we follow our principles, in the way we developed our character, and follow our dharma. In the way we use our free will, in the way we recognize that the Lord is also in the heart of every single living entity, and as such, we must embrace respect, tolerance, humility. And once this have been acquired, we will be able to sincerely surrender to Krishna and say, Nadanamna Janamna Sundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishwarim Bhavatar Bhakti Rahitu Kitvai. Oh my Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your costless devotional service birth after birth. Mamava ye prapadyante. Anyone who surrenders unto him can overcome the influence of the stringent laws of material nature. It is clearly said here that a living entity is put under the influence of Maya by his will. And if anyone wants to get out of this entanglement, this can be made possible simply by his mercy. Then we would be on the right path to use our independence to enlighten ourselves, stop the darkness, ignorance, and connect to the Lord. And by his mercy, go back home, back to Godhead, or just render service in any way the Lord grants it. For sincere devotional service is sincere, unmotivated, uninterrupted, for the pressure of Krishna. It is for him to grant us, or rather is for him to grant and for us to accept. But even then, we must be ready to receive. I'll stop here.